For a lot of you guys, starting a business is going to be the dream. It's the way to free yourself, it's the way to make more money, it's the way to take back control of your time and your life. Whilst I believe all of those things are true, and whilst I am somebody who runs multiple businesses myself, I want to explain in this video why running a business, especially full-time, may not be the right move for everybody, and actually why a lot of you guys should probably keep your job, at least for now. You may be seeing me for the first time and wondering who am I? Who am I to speak about this? I'll give you a little bit of background on me. I'm somebody who runs a number of businesses actually. If you want to learn about those, you can click on any of my videos where I speak about them on this channel. And I know when people hear the term runs a business and they might see someone like me because I'm young and assume that you do a little bit. No, I actually make more than a full-time salary here in the UK just by running my own businesses. So I know that running a business is definitely the best way to make money. With that being said, in the past couple of months, I've actually picked up my first job ever, even though I've been making more money than ever. And there is a reason for this, and it's the same reason why a lot of you guys should probably not go all in your business, especially not in the earlier stages. We've got some beautiful scenery here, so I'm going to spend a lot of time focusing on this rather than directly talking, with my face to the camera. I think this is actually more nice. So, like I say, I run a few businesses, and over the couple of years that I've been doing this, I have made enough to sustain my life. I've made enough to get savings, and the real problem with this, in my eyes, is not necessarily entirely based on money. There are a few reasons. The first one is this: the ambition behind it. And that might sound crazy. How can I say that the ambition behind business is a bad thing? Well, here's the thing, right? At the stage that I am at now, I'm beginning to think about potentially quitting my job for my businesses again, to go full-time on my businesses again. Why am I thinking about doing this now? The main reason is because the amount of time that I'm spending at work is actually taking away from the growth of my businesses. And even at this point, it's basically break even financially between going to work and staying at home and making more money online, right? I could probably make the same, if not more, from running my businesses, so at this point it makes a lot of sense. A lot of people have a degree of naivety when it comes to quitting their job to go full in on their business. A lot of these people will not have a business that makes the average national salary, and that's really what you want to be focusing on because you want to maintain a decent standard of life. And people buy into this image of, well, all of the best entrepreneurs struggled. And of course that is true, but even then you look at all of these people and they generally had safety nets, right? They generally came from middle-class families, and even if they were in a position where they were sleeping on the office floor, they really had the backup. The internet has empowered a lot of people to create businesses, but it's also created an environment that encourages people to only focus on their business. And the truth of it is, life is not entirely a game. In a lot of ways, life is a game. You get to play your character however you wish, and there is a degree of beauty that comes with that. At the same time, you have bills to pay, you have ambitions to meet. And there's nothing more humbling, or even just bad, more disappointing, than having to quit your business to go extra hard in your job because you now need savings. A lot of you guys, before you even think about having the opportunity to quit your business, to quit your job rather, need to have a substantial amount of savings. We're talking tens of thousands at least. Look, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've said it before. I've tried numerous different businesses and I've seen different business models and businesses of mine that were genuinely successful, and then their time was up, right? And then you have to start to think about contingency plans after that. Now, as I've said many times before, I've been running businesses now since I was about 13, so literally for years. I now understand this, and what that means is, again, before I'm even thinking about quitting a job or going full-time in a business, it needs to be, number one, economically unviable to stay at work, i.e. I am now losing money because I could be making more on my businesses. And also, I need to have savings, again, tens of thousands of savings, so that I can survive for the next coming weeks or months. Because trust me, it is harsh in the world of business. I'm not trying to discourage anybody from starting. You should start, but here's the thing. All of these business owners admit, the ones who are successful, to working very, very long hours. Now, your grind has to be different because likely you don't have rich parents who you can fall back on when everything goes wrong. So you will probably have to work the long hours in a different way, working in your job and also building your business. I've said before that I'm not a big believer in all of these statistics, but at the same time, the truth is most business owners fail. That doesn't mean you can't make it, but it means that you're in the likely minority if you do. And a lot of guys do not acknowledge this. It doesn't mean that you can't succeed. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. You absolutely should. But at the same time, I think it's the cleverest thing you can do to give yourself as many chances at success as you can. Now, if you have a small business, or if you're not even starting, this is going to be good, and it can look good on a CV or a resume to say you've run a business. But at the same time, you need to give yourself the highest earning potential over the long term. And in my head, that means a few things. It means, number one, focus on your business as hard as you can, doing as much as you can on that front. But at the same time, you want to have a good employability criteria, just in case it goes wrong. I've said it before, I am not a big fan of going down the 9-to-5 route. It's not necessarily what I want to do, but at the same time I want to have a nice life. And what I mean by that is this: I am going to focus on my business as much as I can. I do want that to be the long-term main goal, but at the same time I've seen this happen enough. People who have tried with businesses, they've spent a lot of money, they've taken all the time out, and then they're in debt, or they're not making any money at the very least. Or they make a little bit of money, they quit their job hastily, thinking that the growth that they've seen is going to continue, when in reality, it's not the case at all, not always. I do not know of any business that I've tried, and any business that anyone I know has tried, that has had a linear path of progression. Just straight up. You know, maybe I'm wrong, but I have not seen it. Even in my own businesses, it is rises and drops. One month you might make £10,000, next month you might make £2,000. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And again, the biggest way or the best way to mitigate this is, in my experience, to have savings. If you had £10,000, £15,000, £20,000 in savings, that is probably enough to cover at least 1 to 3 months living costs, at which point you can take a little bit more risk, or you can rely on your business a bit more. And yet again, a lot of people see people who make money overnight. This is not guaranteed with business. This is actually unlikely. I will say that business can work. I believe it can. But at the same time, it's about thinking about the time frame that this is going to take. Not many people at all create a business that's 6 figures in a year or 2. It's more like 3, 4, 5, right? Realistically, it is. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's very doable. It's still going to put you ahead of most people. But there's going to be times in this game, trust me, I know, I've done it, right? And I'm not saying this to put anybody off, it's just what I've lived. Now I'm getting to a point where, like I say, my businesses alone, in fact, no, my eBay alone, and I run other businesses as well, makes more than the average UK salary, right? So I understand. But at the same time, even that can fall. That can fall at any point. Now, the point that I'm getting to now, in my personal business development, is to mitigate this by having 2 to 5 income streams. So you've got an eBay that makes however much money, great, keep building that, that's fantastic, but now focus on Amazon as well. Make more YouTube videos, you know, just to get money from other streams. Puts you in a lot more safety. Now, obviously a job is not as secure as a lot of people like to think. You can get sacked, you can get fired, companies generally don't care about people, especially not these days. A lot of people are not as secure in the job as they think, but at the same time, they do still have, when they are working, set hours, a set salary. And I know that might sound very, Matrix, but at the same time, bills need to be paid, right? Bills need to be paid, responsibilities must be met. You don't want to get yourself in a position where you're getting into awful amounts of debt thinking that that is a God-given right, that you'll be able to pay it off, because it isn't, and you may not. You may find yourself in a position where you're not making any money, and you never do. Overall, I do believe that life is a game. It's a game to be played and it's a game to be won. But at the same time, a lot of guys are playing it in a manner that's just a little bit too risky. And again, if I am trying to play my game properly, as I am, I'm trying to max out my stats. That means giving myself the highest earnings potential. You know, running a business does come with a lot of transferable skills, but at the same time, your employer needs to be able to see that. Having a degree, perhaps, or having years of work experience is going to be beneficial to getting re-employed, if you ever need to. And again, you guys may get to a point where you're seeing £6,000, £7,000, £8,000, £10,000 a month profit, at which point employment may be a thing of the past, because then you can start to invest in certain markets and you just build the wealth from there. You know, getting up to 100k, I believe, in my experience, seems to be the more difficult part. From there, you can go on to invest in properties and maybe rent out, or have better investments in stocks and other assets to diversify your income even further. When you don't have much, it's a little bit more difficult. And another big point is running a business is actually very lonely. It's a very unrelatable place to be. And even the co-workers that you don't like, even if you don't like your job, it's forced interaction with people, right? Especially if you have maybe a retail job or something like that. Most jobs, of course some are not, like a truck driver for example, where you probably spend a lot of time on your own, but most jobs are forced interaction. And like I say, when you really are running that business, and you're seeing 7 to 10 plus hour, you can't really call them shifts, but let's say work days, because you schedule your own work days, by yourself, doing nothing, maybe just sat on a laptop, or I don't know, it depends what business you run, right? But when you see this, it's sometimes nice to then go and work with your team of co-workers and friends, or at the very least colleagues, and have a laugh, or have an interaction. And I know that sounds very, very basic, back to basics, kind of thing that you take for granted, but trust me guys, when you're running a business, this is a really understated part. There are lots of times where I am doing 6 to 10 hours sat down doing the same thing. And I know this might sound like not very much time. I know someone's going to say, well, I do 10 hours or I do 50. It's not a competition, but at the same time, when you go 6 days, 7 days without speaking to as little as anybody outside of your household, it can take a toll on you. And having just a little bit of a sort of interaction in the world is another big thing, I'd say. And it sounds ridiculous, it sounds small, but I think it is more significant than a lot of people may realise. Anyway, should you still build a business? Yeah, absolutely you should. It really probably is the only way to truly free yourself. At the same time, don't go all in on it. Number one, I believe, until it's economically unviable, because you guys are going to need a slightly more secure income. As many streams of income as you can get will help, so diversifying, i.e. a job is one, a business is another, investments are another, maybe a side business on top of the business. The more income streams you can get, the better. Like I say, there is a point where having a job becomes economically unviable, and even if that means more loneliness from running a business, it's the only way to go, right? Realistically, if you're going to be making significantly more, you'll have to suck up 1 to 2 years of loneliness or failure to just become the person that you want to be. But it's not the case all the time, and a lot of you guys may be inspired by people who are doing well, who already have the concepts and therefore believe that quitting and just going a certain way is the way to go, when in reality for everyone it's not. For most people, a safety net is going to be better, because not everyone comes from rich families, advantaged families, where you can have the ability to just mess about for a couple of years and your parents will either foot the bill, or even if they don't, you know that you'll be fine, really. If that's not you, it's probably not a good idea to quit your job at this stage.